why was IBM Informix a good choice for them? I mean, the smart meters stuff is great. You can see that we've put a lot of energy into the time series function, which is included. But what about Informix, the database itself? That is probably the biggest question that we have been presented with in talking to a lot of customers in this space. Informix wasn't particularly active in the energy and utilities market until relatively recently. Always has been very strong in retail and financial and some other areas that have high transaction rates and a need for a very bulletproof database. What we can bring to the table with the core database is a very low cost, a very low DBA overhead. Informix is quite famous for being used in many embedded applications. Companies that build things like telephone switches and network devices often have an entire copy of Informix running inside those devices that it never has to be touched by any human. It's completely deployed in a way that it self-tunes, self-corrects, recovers from faults seamlessly. And so those are also important attributes for E&U because obviously utilities are desired to be 7x24 high availability, the ultimate in that really. Very high performance systems. Informix has been used successfully for many years to run trading floor systems. It also runs some of the largest retail companies in the world where data is aggregated at the store level and then sent back to central systems for giant retail chains with thousands and thousands of outlets. And Informix is used both as the in-store controller and as the core operational OLTP database at the back end of those systems. It's a very high security and high availability system. It probably has the most flexible failover characteristics of any system I've worked on, and that's quite a few at this point. And I think it's acknowledged to be very, very powerful in terms of the different ways that you can configure clustering to achieve failover, including off-site backup if that's an important part of your topology. So it's very proven for mission-critical applications. It's not a new product that we're out, working for the first time to have customers adopt. We've got a huge number of people successfully using this product who've been using it for decades. They like the product, and they have found that it is very suitable to running mission-critical applications. And so on top of that base really is the time series features that I've been talking about that provide this built-in data compression and the ability to load and run simultaneously, the high degree of parallelism, and the toolkit I mentioned previously. And the net is that just right now, other leading databases do not have the equivalent functionality as part of their product offerings. So getting back to, how were we able to help some customers? This is an example from a POC. This application will be going live in a month. And it was a customer who had Oracle installed and was having some problems that are to be expected because of the size, over 1 million meters. And you can see that the order of magnitude improvements in critical tasks like loading data, running reports, times like 7 hours just really don't work in an IT environment for a lot of reasons. And also, very important is the reduction in data space used, which is almost a quarter of the size. And again, this basically will mean that they can keep 4 times as much instead of a month's data, maybe a quarter's data on their system. And finally, important, they did scale up their systems as part of the test to try to get a feeling for, okay, as we go from maybe 1 million to 3 million meters, how are we going to be able to scale up if we add more CPUs and disk? Does the performance of the system work? Because that's how they got where they were to start with, needing to even talk with us. And they saw, yes, it really does. So it's very linear scaling in terms of the amount of computing resources you apply to it. If less performance is acceptable, you can run it on smaller systems and still have good performance. If you need better performance, you can do that fairly simply by upgrading your hardware. So basically, we are very pleased that a technology that we developed for a different area has proved to be such an excellent choice for the smart meters market. We're having a lot of success. We're engaged with over 50 utility companies worldwide today working on deploying this technology. We're working very closely with a list of 8 or 9 key MDM metering data management vendors who are the vendors who have a lot of the applications that people are looking to run here. And we're having very good feedback from everyone we're working with on this right now. So I think you hopefully understand that there's some real long-term work that's been done to provide these breakthrough technologies and provide the performance that is required by the competitors. This is why we feel that we have a high-value product for this segment at this time, and would urge you to take a look at it if you're needing to do smart metering and smart grid work today.
Thank you, Richard. So we've got a number of questions. We'll try to run through them. And David, if you please join in if you'd like to chime in. So a couple related questions here. One gentleman asked, where does Informix fit, or a time series database fit? Is it the basis for the MDM itself, or is it for post-MDM processing? And then a related question, isn't this database choice a decision for the meter data management provider? And this particular listener is not aware of anybody basing their products, MDM products, on Informix. So could you answer that issue?
Yes. Yes, I think Informix is certainly the right database to run the MDM solution itself on. We're not suggesting that it be a secondary database that you move everything there from, although I am aware of one client who is looking at doing something like that. I think the obvious place to situate Informix is as the database supporting the MDM application. And we are working with all of the major MDM vendors today to have Informix supported. We are fully supported by several. We're in the process of doing proof of concepts with several others, and we have rolled out for clients with 2 in the last quarter, 2 new ones. So I suspect that by the end of the quarter there won't really be any MDM vendors who are not supporting us. And that goes to the second question, which is, well, isn't this really the MDM vendor's choice? Well, they certainly are an important factor. I think what you're seeing is, as the MDM market matures, it's becoming like most other application markets where they see the requirement to support multiple databases. And so if you look at, I don't know, the most common business application like SAP, SAP supports DB2 and Oracle and Sybase and Microsoft SQL Server and even some smaller databases, because different customers have different requirements. So when you go to deploy SAP, the database, they certainly are able to make recommendations depending on the size of your business and how many seats you're trying to deploy about which 1 or 2 or 3 might be better choices. But ultimately, I think the decision around what database to run any application on is usually made by the IT group, based on their experience and training and all the other factors that come into play.
So, Richard, we have a couple of other sort of topics that are being repeated several times. And the first is, several listeners ask, is a relational okay for a utility with only 50,000 meters, and one has 30 and one has 35? And they're really asking, what's the cutover point? Informix becomes the better, more logical choice, or is it viable and important for anyone of any size?
It certainly would be useful to anyone of any size. I think for many customers looking at 50,000 meters, they probably can make things work with the relational model that doesn't support time series data as a unique data type. So yes, that probably can be made to work. Some of the benefits, though, would accrue even in the smaller setting, because you still would have the space savings, which would mean you could either devote far less disk to it, or you could have a lot more smart meter data online. So there's that benefit. And the ease of working with the data is also accrues even in small settings. So the fact that the data is easily understood because of the time series specific constructs that are provided is also of a benefit. But in terms of sheer performance, the smaller 50,000 or 30,000 foot thing, particularly if it's deployed on a very powerful computer, sure, it's going to be able probably to handle that. So, okay.
A number of questions around what's the level of effort to migrate from a traditional database or a relational database to Informix?
I've used the terms traditional and relational database in this presentation, but I don't want to create the misconception that Informix is not a relational database. It is. It's fully relational. The vast majority of Informix customers are not using time series because many people have deployed Informix just to run PeopleSoft or SAP or loss and financials, or to write their own custom applications, or even, as I said, they put it inside a network router because they need a database in that application. And so all of these people who are using Informix in all of these settings are using Informix as a relational database. It supports the full SQL 93 standard, which is also supported by all of the competing databases. So any SQL code that you needed to migrate would migrate very, very easily. We have services available to help people who are migrating from other databases to Informix. And we also have many clients who are able to do those successfully on their own because there is so much commonality between major relational database systems. So really the time series technology is implemented as a built into the database extension of the core database. But the core database is all part of the product when you get it. Every single thing, all of the transactional capability that is in Informix, the ability to support other extended data types like geodetic for the round earth view, and also there's a two-dimensional mapping for the flat earth view spatial technology. Those are all still things that are possible to run in the product and supported by the database.
Thank you, Richard. We're going to have to wrap up now, but we did get a number of other questions, including some technical ones, and just want to remind readers a couple things. One, feel free to continue typing questions in. We'll make sure all of them get to the presenters and that you get answers by email. So next slide, please. All that remains now, I think, then, is just to say thank you for joining us, and thank you as well to IBM and to Dr. David Shipman and to Richard Wozniak. Hope to see you again real soon here at our next Lessons from the Real World webinar. Thanks, everyone. World webinar. Thanks, everyone. World webinar. Thanks, everyone. World webinar.